To the world leaders of the Great Council of the United Nations, the Hopi and all original native people have lived on this land for many thousands of years, and the teachings that have been passed on from generation to generation among our peoples contain prophecies, warnings, and religious instructions that are of great significance for everyone. These teachings serve as instructions for what we must do at this critical moment which the modern world now faces. We, the Hopi, have watched closely as each stage in the pattern of world change has unfolded, knowing when to take the next action according to our instructions. So when the prophesied gourd of ashes was dropped on Japan, it was the final confirmation. It was time for the Hopi to act. It was time to reveal our prophecy and spread the message throughout the world.
We all have seen many obstacles develop since the white man came into our midst. Our ancestors from long time ago prophesied these things today. They knew they would happen. Now, as we go along year after year, it begins to unfold as they prophesied. Now I believe what they say is true and is now coming about. We have been talking about this to the world for many years, and we are afraid. I guess people don't understand what we're talking about, so maybe not much has been accomplished. We have been talking and traveling to other countries for a long time, but still nobody seems interested enough to act on it.
Our instructions were to seek help from what we now know to be the White House in Washington, D.C. Having been there and having received no help from that source, our prophecy sent us to the house of Micah on the eastern shore, and so we stand before you today.
I was the firstborn to the newly formed village of Haute-Villa. I have experienced two views of life, a good life and today's life. At this time, there is nothing that harmonizes with our traditional way of living, and we are not always happy. A long time ago, in the fields and throughout the land, the earth was covered with many flowers. During my younger days, people knew how to care for all creation.
Our uncles and grandfathers have been teaching us many things. Be good to everybody, and in your prayers you must keep in the mind the people and have good hearts. And that way your prayers will be fulfilled. That's why we don't put people aside when we pray, so that everybody can have good thoughts. Whenever somebody comes to your house, give him something to eat. Feed him. If you have nothing, at least give him some water, so you can feel we have a good life. Hopi life is beautiful.
We must share our knowledge with you and bring this awareness to as many people as we can. Knowing this, we have knocked on the door of the United Nations for many years. Until now, we have not been permitted to enter. The door has not been opened to the Hopi to deliver our spiritual message to this General Assembly. This is also true for all Native people around the world.
Our elders always talk about the prophecy and the purification. They say the outlook for the future is that according to the Great Spirit's law, the purification will happen. Hopi say it is only through this purification that we will all become peaceful, stop fighting, and people all over the world will be unified in their resolve for peace, and we will have everlasting life.
We were told that if the door is open to us here, and we are given the opportunity to present our message, that maybe some of the leaders would listen to us. We have already made 3 attempts to try to accomplish this. We have known that the 4th would be the final one. If denied the opportunity, then we would have to look to other directions for help in the call for world purification. If we continue to be ignored by the representatives of the world governments, then the prophecy states that it will be up to nature. Terrible things will take place to correct what the Hopi know must be corrected. Great waters may flood across the land. There will be devastating earthquakes, high winds, famine, and great wars man has prepared. If this happens, it means that you, the world leaders, have failed to perform your duties, and you may suffer a terrible punishment. Some of you may be destroyed instantly at that moment. These things we have known. Look throughout your own countries. Many of these same prophecies are foretold in other religions.
This purification is the transition from the destructive way of life to the peaceful way. So when this purification materializes, the wicked people will be done away with. And when this happens, we will have a beautiful way of life. There will be rain and plenty of food. Up to this time, the leaders are dying off, like the prophecy says, and there may be no recognized leaders left. If this happens, it will be up to a person with a strong heart that will not shy away from the problems. A person that will not be afraid to help accomplish what the Hopi is pursuing. Whether it be 1, 2, or 3 people, and whether they have any official standing or not, what is imperative is that they be under the direction of the Creator.
So we must seriously consider the future in trying to solve the problems we are faced with today. This is a critical time for all people. The Hopi knew that there may be 3 great world wars taking place towards the end of this era. It was said that there would be 2 great world wars, and there may be a 3rd. If a 3rd one developed, it would mean almost total destruction of everything on earth by a gourd of ashes. We have arrived at that point. It seems that every indication today leads us toward a final world war, and we have been told not to take part in it. As Hopi leaders, we don't want that final war. We don't want that to happen to our people, to our children. The prophecy states that the final challenge in a series of 3 great shakings of the earth will involve the resolution of imbalance on all scales, including the global scale. It is said that the red hat, or people of the red symbol, will come out of the east to bring an awakening to the west. We have a short time, the prophecy warns, in which to integrate this lesson. A short time to return to the spiritual instructions of the Creator. Through our new understanding, our goals and expectations of technology will be altered.
I always work this way. I first find myself. Then there need to be a lot of love. And it's pretty hard to work with love, for a lot of people will not accept you, but you have to work at it, constantly praying. I always think back that the elders have told us, you know, when you don't get what you want of the Creator, keep on asking. He never refuses to give you the answer. Don't be ashamed to shed little tears. We have a reason for tears, and it's to cleanse you and get rid of all the sorrows and other things that you are fed up with. This is the way I had been taught. So you just keep on putting out your forces of love, never forgetting that only through the Creator that we can achieve anything. For all things are possible if you only ask.
Should we succeed, we shall have achieved a new path which can be accepted by the entire human family. Should we fail, however, we can expect the red hat people to come out of the west, to come large in number, and fall out of the sky like rain. They will have no mercy for anyone, the prophecy states, and will overtake this land in one day. This event, should it occur, will be the signal that the purifier will soon reveal himself and rid the entire world of the two-hearted people. This means all that have not achieved a personal relationship with the Great Spirit will be destroyed as the physical world undergoes cataclysmic change.
I am very happy and pleased that you have made it possible and opened a door for us to talk to you. We have waited for this time to talk to you, the world leaders from all the nations, at this house of Micah. We have tried several times, but we could not come. As the Hopi say, the door was closed. We are very glad for this opportunity, of course. Please consider what we say and give it utmost consideration. We know each nation has different wisdom and philosophy and guidelines, sometimes the same and sometimes different, but they lead to the same end. It is maybe because of these differences that there is fighting around the world. Up to this point, it seems as though we are now having a contest as to who will have the most superior weapons to try to conquer each other. One way to resolve to a peaceful solution is to get rid of the weapons and become friends, and we will all have peace. If this is not accomplished through a spiritual peace, then it must lead to a big war. If anyone in the world has the courage to challenge this knowledge or feels that it must be done, please don't hesitate to start the purification. Go ahead, wake us up. We are confused all over the world. We are growling like dogs trying to bite each other.
We remember the escape from total destruction of a previous world. We came to the Great Spirit, who gave us instructions of how to live on this land and take care of our Mother Earth for him. He gave us a name, Hopi, which means peace, kindness, gentleness, truthfulness.
When we came here, we came with a stone tablet in our possession for our future use. This tablet represents all land and life on this continent, and that's the reason this belongs to Hopi. It is not the white man's land. This is Hopi's. All the ruins throughout the land belong to Hopi. We left them in our migrations to all the corners of this land. When we got to where we met the Great Spirit, we settled, and this is where our ceremonial patterns formed. We are doing all of the ceremonials, not for money, but for all the land and all that lives. We pray for good health, rain, and a beautiful life.
He told us that we should not involve ourselves if a great war of the world should occur in the future. we were instructed not to pick up our bows and arrows, and we made an oath to follow the law of the Creator. While the world governments are sitting and talking about world peace, many tragic events are taking place on the face of this planet, and with each day the effects are becoming irreversible. Mineral resources under the earth are being wasted more rapidly than ever before because of a terrible greed. Vast heaps of radioactive uranium wastes are causing serious contamination of water throughout the world, while every new day leads to sickness, death, and deformed babies. This contamination will pollute the earth for all living things for longer than man can even remember. It is a direct violation of religious and human rights. It is happening the world over. The Mother Earth is being collectively destroyed by the modern human family.
It saddens me that we now neglect the Mother Earth. She is tired and ill because of mining and other explorations. Everything is polluted, and we are eating polluted food and breathing polluted air. As a result, there are many illnesses. A long time ago, the work of religious leaders made our way of life pure and clean. But if we are fortunate, we should look back and begin again to work with Mother Earth and Father Sun. They would lead us on our way. We should pay attention to the laws of the Creator, and maybe the whole earth would be renewed. That is the only solution for a good life, a new life. The Creator said anyone who needs to ask Him for something, He will answer your prayers. If you want something, ask Him, and if you are serious, He will give them to you. That's the way we have been doing all of these years, praying to the Great Spirit. That's the traditional belief.
When the last of the true native people are gone, and their original teachings have disappeared with them, what will happen to all those living from the system that man has invented? Even people in it, including most of you here today, admit it cannot last.
So hear me, understand me, listen to me. At this point, it may be too late, but maybe if all people work towards the peaceful ways, with the help of the Creator and the world leaders, this renewal could still be accomplished.
The Creator's law cannot be changed. It will never break down. Perhaps there is still time left to reawaken the misguided and prevent disaster. We learned from our ancestors that man's actions through prayer are so powerful that they decide the future of life on earth. Unless the human family can understand the need to protect its elder cultures from which all of our contemporary societies have emerged, the human family will have no future at all.
Look to the future of the children who are coming. As our late chief, Yukiuma, used to say, if I'm fortunate, this will happen in my lifetime, and I will be able to save something of value for the future generations. So when they grow up, they will not be disappointed.
We ask that you all look into yourselves. into your hearts and minds. And look at your people. Look to the future of the coming generations. Do not allow this destruction to happen. We recognize that there are many peoples represented in the United Nations, each endowed with their own unique culture and traditions. But the original instructions of the Creator are universal and valid for all time. The essence of these instructions is compassion for all life and love for all creation.
We used to plant the fields below. They were very large. About this time in the fall, we used to roast sweet corn, and the boys and girls used to go to the roasting corn party and play. And they would rub the corn soot in their faces and laugh. There are a lot of funny things that go with roasting corn. We used to have a lot of rain, and flowers would grow all in the valley. We would play games. We had many games. They were very plentiful. Someone would find a beehive and collect the honey. Maybe we would go riding on burros up into the valley to the spring. We would all stay overnight, then go home the next day. We were always happy. And then we would hunt rabbits. We would roast them and have a big feast. All of that with roasting corn. At that time, we used to have a good time, a beautiful time, and stay around and do whatever we had to do to make us happy and healthy.
We must realize that we do not live in a world of dead matter, but in a universe of living spirit. Let us open our eyes to the sacredness of Mother Earth, or our eyes will be opened for us. In accordance with spiritual instructions, our ancestors established sacred shrines on top of our mountains. From within this spiritual center, surrounded by 4 sacred mountains, our religious leaders serve as caretakers of all land and life, striving to keep this whole world in balance.
Up to now, the traditional Hopi has been treated cruelly, like the lowest caste. It is hard to believe we have been treated that way for so long by the white man. We think he should not do that because he has some good laws to go by, but he doesn't follow them. Because we are named Hopi, we are supposed to receive people kindly and treat them good and give them happiness to whoever comes. So that way we will not have enemies. Only solution is if our hearts and minds come together. Then we will walk the beautiful path to a brighter future.
Our people, elders, and religious leaders are still going through sacred ceremonies. They are in their kivas carrying out their prayers, meditations, and fasting, making prayer feathers for all living things. They never forget anything. Our Mother Earth, the fruit that she provides us to eat, plant life, animal life, birds, all creeping things, every human being on this earth, the moon and stars, all are remembered during the Soyal ceremony, which is held every winter so that the land and life will never be destroyed again. We always ask for good, gentle rain, plenty of rain so that every living thing will have water to drink and become strong and healthy and be able to reproduce itself so that life will continue on earth. Our prayer is for a beautiful life, good health, and happiness. That is the prayer of our Hopi spiritual leaders who are waiting for those seriously ready to help us. We are all looking for ways to solve the world's problems. We are looking for survival. The only way we will be able to find it is to come back to the original spiritual instructions and act upon them.
People sometimes ask me, if you had to start your life all over again, what would you do? I think the answer is the same, exactly the same. I would start as a child in my father's nurseries, helping him to raise tens of thousands of forest trees. And today, there's even a greater need in the world. It's a question of planting trees for survival. Be gentle, gentle, gentle with the tree. That's lovely. That's lovely. Now, I think we've finished planting the kauri tree, and we're going to give it our blessing. I want you all to stand around and help me bless the kauri tree. Put your hands like this to bless it, you see. Come around this way and help me. And all around here, I want you to feel your love going out, you know, from your fingertips to the kauri. And, you know, this will help to make it grow, make it happy. You know, we love to be blessed, don't we? And the trees love to be blessed.
A sheep station in the South Island of New Zealand is now the home and campaign headquarters of Richard St. Barbe Baker, known internationally as the Man of the Trees. From here, he leads the crusade to reclaim the deserts and reclothe the ravaged earth, a global campaign of forest conservation. Born 92 years ago in England, he still continues to write and travel, addressing meetings, teaching children, advising governments of the vital importance of trees in the fragile balance of nature.
In ancient wisdom, we are taught that the earth itself feels the behavior of mankind upon it. I submit that as we have no scientific proof to the contrary, we accept this point of view and behave accordingly. Of the Earth's 30 billion acres, already 9 billion acres is desert. And if a man loses a third of his skin, he dies. Plastic surgeons say he's had it. And if a tree loses 1/3 of its bark, it dies. And if the earth loses 1/3 of its green mantle of trees, it will die. The water table will sink beyond recall, and life on this planet will become impossible. It's being skinned alive today at the speed of forest destruction.
Throughout his lifetime, St. Barbe Baker has witnessed the destruction of forests, as one frontier after another has been opened up to meet the accelerating demands of the developed nations. Since 1950, up to half the world's woodlands have been cleared and not replaced. Forests are felled for furniture, newsprint, napkins, rubbish bags, drugs, oils, dyes. Other forests are destroyed to make way for crops and cattle. The Amazon basin, a major supplier of the world's oxygen, is being encroached upon at the rate of 2 million acres a year. The native people are being driven out. When trees go, deserts come. The Sahara, where once many forests flourished, is the largest of the deserts and spreading year by year. St. Barbe Baker believes deserts are the inevitable result of overgrazing and tree felling.
When I was a student at the University of Saskatchewan, I used to work up in the lumber camps beyond Prince Albert. And I was very impressed by the way the lumberjacks would embrace a tree before felling it. Dear old tree, do forgive me, but you know it's my life's work, it's my job. And then they'd step back and lay in the axe. It was there, in those same lumber camps, that it occurred to me that something must be done when all these trees had disappeared. They were not regenerating naturally as they should have done. We were clear felling.
From the devastation of the Canadian forests, St. Barbe Baker returned to serve in the European battlefields of the First World War. After the war, he studied forestry at Cambridge and later joined the colonial service. In the highlands of Kenya, the young colonial officer found the forests already depleted by European exploitation and the slash-and-burn farming techniques of the Kikuyu. The Kikuyu tribesmen had no tradition of planting trees. St. Barbe Baker had to find a way to introduce tree planting into tribal custom.
They had a dance when the beans were planted, another when the corn was reaped. So I said, what about a dance for the trees, for tree planting? And they said, well, that's God's business, Sharia Mungu. I know, but if you cut all the mother trees, you don't give Mungu a chance. I've got an idea. We'll have a dance at my camp, and I'll offer a prize of a fat bullock for the best turned-out warrior, and a necklace of their favorite beads for the most beautiful damsel. They thought that was a swell idea, and 3 weeks later, 3,000 of these warriors turned up for the first dance of the trees. And it was at that dance that I called for volunteers, for men amongst them who would promise before the high God to plant so many trees each year and take care of trees everywhere. The men of the trees promised to do one good deed each day, plant 10 trees, seedlings or seeds each year, and take care of trees everywhere, especially the native, the indigenous trees.
Watu Wamiti, the Men of the Trees, 1922. With the participation of these chiefs, they set out to replant the forests of Kenya. Returning to England, St. Barbe Baker was to further the idea. The Men of the Trees became an international body, which still has as its motto, Twahamwe, work together. Colonial Nigeria. Posed here in 1924 as Assistant Conservator of Forests, St. Barbe Baker found his job was merely to supervise the plundering of the mahogany forests. He introduced selective felling and the replacement of trees, but his work was terminated by an attack of malaria. But he survived to return to Africa years later by a characteristically adventurous route. The Sahara expedition of 1952 enlisted public support for the idea of a green front, a front line of trees 30 miles deep to contain the desert. The expedition would measure the rate at which the desert was spreading and look for evidence of former forests where now was only sand and rock. From Algeria, the expedition headed south, traveling by compass. There were no roads to follow and only the occasional track.
There were miles and miles of hard-packed end, it was just like driving over ice. All you needed was just a little finger touching the wheel just to keep the general direction. And then the color would change to a dirty white. We knew then we were in for trouble. You had to grip the wheels and practice controlled skidding, always trying to climb out of it. And this is where people vanish in the quicksands.
In such conditions, the expedition's camera recorded a surprising find, a living tree 400 miles from its nearest companions.
What frightened us most of all was the speed at which the desert was advancing on the food-bearing lands of equatorial Africa. It was advancing along a 2,000-mile front, often to a depth of 30 miles in a single year.
Men of the desert could remember trees and oases which had vanished in their lifetime. Since this film was taken, hundreds of thousands of the people of the southern Sahara have died of starvation. Great stretches of desert can no longer support even a nomadic population. Camel trains are a thing of the past. Once fertile landscapes are now unearthly, dead patches like cancer on the face of the planet. The world's deserts are spreading at the rate of almost 60,000 square kilometers a year. In Algeria, St. Barbe found that a green front had already been established. For centuries, goats had stripped these hillsides bare. Now, goats were banned and trees were surviving to block the Sahara's northward march.
When I was a little boy, 3 years old, I used to help my father raise tens of thousands of little seedlings. And in my childish fancy, I used to imagine that these were soldiers. They used to push up their seed chuck, and in my childish fancy, I thought they were saluting me. And so I took the salute and thanked them with my little watering can, watered them and weeded them carefully. This was my main source of entertainment. I didn't have toys. I didn't have lead soldiers like other children. I played with my little seedlings.
From seedlings to maturity in 25 years, the Californian Pinus radiata grow up to 5 times faster in New Zealand. In the early 30s, St. Barbe Baker made his first visit to New Zealand, where he praised the choice of Pinus radiata as a pioneer crop to plant on the pumice lands. Today, this forest supplies 40 countries with products, including wood chips.
This mountain of chips is from radiata pine, an exotic forest growing on land which is one of the largest God-made deserts in this part of New Zealand, volcanic eruption land, pumice, and this is going to make paper. As I see it, this is one way of saving our indigenous forests.
Wood chips, successfully supplying industrial demands, produced from a 350,000 hectare forest, growing only one exotic tree, but a forest lacking the natural variety and long-term ecological value of native forests.
This is a virgin forest. It's never been logged. And the forest is a society of living things, the greatest of which is the tree. In days of yore, the Maoris would always ask a tree's permission before felling it. In the story of Rata is an exception to the rule. He felled a tree without first asking its permission, and then he found the next morning it was standing up on his trunk. He went to a lady, Tohonga, and asked her what had happened. She said, "Did you ask the tree's permission before felling it?" He said, "No. You go to the tree, placate it, and when you've felled it, cover up the trunk with foliage so as to protect the inlying spirit." And he did as he was told, and the next morning he found not only his tree lying on the ground, but the Hukatori, the people of the woods, had forgiven him and worked on it through the night and made a beautiful canoe for him.
There is no modern parable to teach unwilling governments the true worth of these trees, some of them 800 years old. This forest is now under threat and may yet be processed into living room furniture. Sequoia sempervirens, young 60-year-old Californian redwoods growing in Rotorua, New Zealand. In California in the 19th century, they felled the redwoods like there was no tomorrow. By the 1930s, the redwoods faced extinction. St. Barbe Baker became involved, and since then funds have been raised to secure thousands of acres. Even so, the threat persists.
Sequoia sempervirens. In California, this will grow 2,000 years. 375 feet in height. And I've traced back life for 9,000 years among these trees. Circles of trees that were grown from trees that were there 9,000 years ago. This is the nearest thing we know to immortality. The oldest living trees on Earth.
The urban Californian may be unaware of how much the redwoods mean to his survival. In India, where 6 billion tons of soil are lost each year through erosion, illiterate villagers know that preserving tree cover is a matter of life and death urgency.
We are all responsible for the situation in the world today. The most promising movement in India is the Chipko movement, Hug to the Tree movement. These brave women have been hugging the trees and saying to the fallers, cut us first, chop us first before you take our trees. These trees are the breath of our life. These trees supply the water we drink. These trees supply the food we eat. And when you take the trees, the mountains fall down and bury our villages. Save the trees.
Just as he was acknowledged by the Kikuyu of Kenya 60 years ago, so at 92, the man of the trees is still recognized as an ally by those who know that human life depends on the forests. The loss of the world's woodlands means the loss to man of the necessities of life: breathable air, drinkable water, and food-bearing soil. In the face of widespread destruction, St. Barbe Baker continues to find hope and strength. For hope, he looks to the children, a new generation of men and women, to plant trees for their lives. He makes no secret of the source of his strength.
They tell me that $1 million has been spent developing a machine which will bring radiations from the ground. And now they find that a tree does it much more efficiently. For my part, I prefer the tree. I haven't seen the machine, but for years I've charged my batteries on trees. And you have to select a special tree friend. When I came out of hospital after a serious operation, I chose a cedar of Lebanon. Cedar itself is the Arabic word. It comes from the Arabic word meaning strength. And I used to do 2 minutes morning and 2 minutes evening. After about a minute, your hands begin to tingle. And I wouldn't recommend beginners to take more than a minute to start with. But through the years, I found not only great healing power, but great inspiration from trees. Leave the turf. We'll find another place for that. Put all this earth. Now, come away, my dear, and put this, scrape this all back, put around the top. That's enough. Where's the next tree? Have you got another tree? Are you going to help? You get the tree, the other tree. Oh, he's down there, is he? Let's go. All right, let's go. Let's go. Who's going to bring the batter?